On this episode of DC On Screen, we talk a little bit about Casey Bloys being a weirdo with fake tweets. That's what it was, right? Fake tweets. Creature Commandos still happening, on track. What the hell do we talk about? Nipples and...
Constantine being canceled.
Yeah. Almonds coming out of nipples.
Stuff like that.
The Penguin spinoff being delayed. That one...
Right,
that one's
delayed.
happening.
Yeah.
Ben and Lois ending, and Nicolas Cage...
Cage said stuff, yeah.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage said stuff about his Flash cameo.
And AI for some reason.
All of that and more after these words from our mystery sponsor, not your mystery sponsors, our mystery sponsors.
Get your own.
Welcome into DC On Screen, the podcast bringing you news and reviews about the DC Comics multiverse on film and television since 2015. I am your host, David C. Robertson. I have it written down here that this is my old pal Jason Goss, but unfortunately, Jason was called away due to a family medical emergency. So joining me on the show today, our old friend, Effie Oppelders.
Good morning. I wanted to joke about it, my presence being unfortunate, but then you came up with the medical emergency, and now it's not funny anymore. Now it's just pretty unfortunate. Damn it.
I know. Take that.
It is good to be back on this side of the mic, I guess, instead of listening. So I'm happy to be here, even if the circumstances are indeed unfortunate.
Yeah, they're sad circumstances. But, and I won't get into it here, but Jason and his immediate family is okay, but a little outside of that, it gets a little, there's something going on.
We can talk off mic.
Yeah. All right. So, first of all, thank you to the patrons, and show wouldn't be possible without you. It'd actually probably be possible.
Just not comfortably.
Just not comfortably possible. Yeah, every episode is ad-free for all patrons. That means the $1 patrons, the $5 patrons. But if you're a $5 patron, every once in a while we do extra shit.
I do appreciate the extra shit. Every
once in a while. Yeah, you are a patron. I haven't forgotten.
I'm getting a live thank you. It's a new experience.
Yeah. So patreon.com/DC on screen. And actually, I think you can join the Patreon community for free.
Yeah, that's new, I think.
That is new.
Just follow the creators. You can just lurk and be there.
Yeah. Quietly beating off in the corner.
As is very, it's appropriate for this show.
Yeah, just whacking away, going, there's another thing I'm not going to pay for. Fat.
That's just good financial sense. But if you don't have good financial sense, definitely sign up for the Patreon.
That's right. Patreon.com/DC on screen if you want to cop a feel on us. Wait, that sounded wrong.
Just slightly.
All right, let's get into the show. So we had a number of listeners message us about this, and I don't want to talk about it too terribly long because it doesn't really have a lot to do with DC other than it has to do with HBO. But so someone who worked at HBO is filing a lawsuit, wrongful termination, and within the lawsuit there are allegations that Casey Bloys, who was the then president of original programming at HBO, had people, quote, go on a mission to create secret fake Twitter accounts to troll TV critics.
Oh boy. That is so petty.
Yes.
That is incredible.
Isn't it?
I almost admire it. Like, it's childish as shit, but it's, wow. Yeah, the internet is an amazing place, and Twitter is definitely not the internet on steroids in that it's a libertarian hellscape by and for fascists these days. So it's good shit that HBO is participating, I guess, in the community at large.
Apparently it started in October of 2022. Casey Bloys was irked by a tweet from Vulture TV critic Catherine Van Arendonk, By the way, that is a fantastic name. Arendonk.
Absolutely.
Van Arendonk. Who has some thoughts about Perry Mason? The remake of the original 1960 show carves out an origin story for Mason, showing flashes of him serving in World War I. Van Arendonk felt this was weak storytelling. She wrote, "Dear Prestige TV, please find some way to communicate male trauma besides showing me a flashback to the hero's memories of trench warfare."
Fair enough.
Look, I mean, maybe fair enough in some instances, but I mean, if you're going with this time period, yeah,
it
that's
makes
a real
sense. That's the trauma you went through. So in terms of character, sure. In terms of it being a thing we see really, really often compared to any other type of, character growth, sure, I can see a point there. And also, it's an opinion. You don't have to harass a critic for it.
Right, absolutely. Bloys was annoyed and sent Van Arendonk's tweet to Kathleen McCaffrey, HBO's Senior Vice President of Drama Programming, saying, maybe a Twitter user should tweet that's a pretty blithe response to what soldiers legitimately go through on the battlefield.
Make it a veterans issue, sure.
Yeah, then asked, do you have a secret handle? Couldn't we say, especially given that it's D-Day, to dismiss a soldier's experience like that seems pretty disrespectful. This must be answered. It really mustn't. It really mustn't, Casey.
Just knowing full well that you can't do it from your own public account means you know that it's a terrible idea to do the call out yourself. Someone will have made that point already. It's Twitter.
He said, who can go on a mission? He said that he needs a mole at arm's length from HBO executive team. The executive team, we must need a random to make the point and make her feel bad.
Oh my God.
So
these are fucking adults. Jesus.
What they landed on, the rebuttal they landed on was a somewhat elitist take. Is there anything more traumatic for men and now women than fighting in a war? Sorry if that seems too convenient for you.
Wow, that is so poorly phrased. That is very, like, how do you do, fellow children? Like, it is...
Yes.
That is internet speak for people who are not chronically online.
But it continued on this way, and I didn't document every iteration, but he eventually got to a point where he was like, I think it's time for our friend to make a new tweet. And by the way, all of these were very easily traced back to them.
Of course. This is not
worst.
Even... God, like, just they didn't even go through the effort of actually having some unpaid social media intern do this on their secondary email, and nothing. Just this is so obscenely dumb.
And I'm not so naive to think that big studios like Warner Brothers aren't doing this, because I'm sure they are.
Oh, yeah.
But this is like such a ramshackled version of this.
Yeah, it's amateurish, and it somehow goes all the way to the top, where you're like, no vice president of anything should have to deal with this bullshit.
No.
Like, what?
This is just, like, I understand the instinct. It is petty, but it is also aggravating to create content and have critics, like, shitting on it every 5 seconds.
Absolutely, but that's kind of their job and what they've been doing for decades, and you should get used to it as a studio.
Yeah.
And you probably shouldn't respond with, well, this is the worst drama we could think of, because war's bad,
Yeah,
there's probably just a million better ways to handle this.
If, the critic... in the case of Perry Mason, I get it because of the time frame.
Sure, it's not like
maybe
World War One, like, flashbacks are never appropriate or anything. There's no reason not to use it for storytelling. But it is just odd to make such a point of this, probably like 3 lines in a fucking article that likely nobody read, since I don't know many people who even watched the Perry Mason reboot.
I know a lot of people who watched it. Apparently it was very good. Fair enough. Apparently it was very, very good. Hear. I have no idea.
It apparently didn't make the transition across the ocean, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe not. But
also, if there's an annoying sound in the background, it sounds like a housemate has an alarm that just goes through walls.
Okay.
I hope they wake up soon.
Well, I can't hear it right now, so fingers crossed.
Good. That's a good sign.
So moving away from that, because whatever. The only thing it has to do with DC is that, like, they pointed out at the end of the article that, like, 13% of the Snyder Cut fandom were bots, according to some study.
Some arbitrary, yeah. Which is still leaves a lot of people, but let's not even get into those numbers.
Yeah.
That's a weird game, and like I'd have to really dig into the sources, and I don't want to.
Yeah, and I just don't care.
It's just a petty excuse to ignore the real demand that was clearly there, and
pretty much,
resulted in it being made and released and successful. So, go sit in a trench somewhere.
Yeah. So there was a major DC rumor that was spreading this previous week. An unverified source had DC fans believing that Creature Commandos, the animated series, would be delayed. James Gunn says Creature Commandos is all set to come out in 2024. There have never been any delays. Thank goodness. Any info otherwise is a well-intentioned mistake or misspeaking. When asked by When asked by another user if work on Creature Commandos was at all impacted by the strike, Gunn said, as we know, animation is not part of the SAG contract, but it still doesn't matter, as everyone's lines have been recorded for a long time, and animation has been going full speed ahead for a while.
I thought we knew this. I'm pretty sure I knew it was basically in the canon. They were just working on the art side of it.
Yeah, it's been this way for months. We've been saying basically this for months on this show. And I guess we just aren't listened to by the entirety of the fandom because there are still people who are flipping their shit. Sad. I know.
It's really their loss. Like, why aren't you here?
We should be listened to by everyone.
Pretty much. Just mandatory listening. Worldwide.
Just suckling at the teat of DC on screen.
It is how it ought to be.
And
I do love the unverified sources, though. Those are my favorite kind of source.
Of course. And also, by the way, if you suckle at the teat of DC on screen, we don't excrete milk. It's gummy bears.
That's good shit.
Just full-fledged gummy bears.
I was thinking, what's that taste? But now I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Every once in a while, it's a Sour Patch Kid, maybe a gummy worm.
It's still acceptable, like as long as you sort of see it coming and you're like, oh, some sour in between. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Every once in a while, chocolate-covered peanuts. It's rare.
I mean, you gotta have some tiny trinkets in there that are harder to find. It's the one toy that. It's not made as many of them, but they're in one Happy Meal across the country, It makes it interesting. You got to find that golden Wonka ticket. You got to find that chocolate-covered peanut coming out of the DC teat.
Yeah, we tried chocolate-covered almonds, but they were too painful.
Yeah, no, that sounds just ugh. I'm grabbing my this hurts. This thought.
Oh God.
Imagine cashews though, with like the little curve in it.
I'm deeply allergic to cashews.
Even worse.
My teeth would be swelling and peeling. It would be terrible.
I mean, some would argue swollen breasts are advantageous in some ways, but not when they hurt. That is fair. I'll acknowledge that.
I can't show them off if they're peeling.
Yeah, I suppose. Tight shirts. You'll find a way.
Right. Where there's a will, there's a way.
And there's plenty of will.
Unless you are J.J. Abrams, because back in 2021, it was reported that he was going to do a Constantine series, and that it was going to tie in...
Oh, well, that's dead.
Yeah, oh, yes. That's the news. That's the news. Variety says...
I can imagine.
Constantine has officially been scrapped by HBO Max. According to the report, the series had been pretty far along in development, with a lead actor in talks to take on the role, and 4 scripts have been written for the contemporary London set series. And it was supposed to be a part of the Justice League Dark universe, but we also had news that we reported on that Justice League Dark was dead.
Yeah.
So
that's a shame. I hope they maybe if it was good, I hope they sort of reuse some of the material and ideas for the eventual DCU version.
Yeah.
Because it's is it clear to us? This is a rhetorical question mostly. Is it at all clear to us if the Keanu Constantine sequel reboot is at all connected, or is that still properly Elseworlds?
That's properly Elseworlds as far as we know.
Good. Yeah, no, I figured, but I was also this smells of we already got a Constantine project in the works, so as WB does, we're not going to develop two at the same time.
Right. Which is kind of a theme for this episode.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I joined on a fun one.
It's all bad news. It's all bad news.
It's what we're DC fans for, truly.
Yeah, that's really why
we have an
DC
exceptional
fans.
Acquired taste for suffering.
Yeah.
It's masochism at its peak.
We just hang out in the shadows, jerking off and reading the trades. And I've been like, what's canceled this week? Oh, ooh, sorry, Constantine.
I don't think Constantine would have you apologize for that.
Yeah.
I think he'd be fine.
And as we climax, we go, why can't they get it together?
Yeah. I have nothing to say. It's just very true. It's a recurring theme.
So this has been really billed as more of a negative than it is, I think. Nicolas Cage, the headlines have all been like, Nicolas Cage blasts the Flash. Nicolas Cage said, I didn't do that. Okay.
This is a news story I've actually seen. Lay it on me. So, according to Nicolas Cage in a new interview, he says, first and foremost, I was on set. This is for spoilers for The Flash. He was in The Flash as Superman, as his version of Superman that never actually happened for anything. He says, I was on set. They did put a lot of time into building the suit, and I think Andy Muschietti is a terrific director. He is a great guy and a great director, and I loved his two It movies. What I was supposed to do was literally just be standing in an alternate dimension, if you will, and witnessing the destruction of the universe. Kal-El was bearing witness to the end of the universe, and you can imagine, with that short amount of time that I had, what that would mean in terms of what I had to convey. I had no dialogue. So I had to convey with my eyes the emotion. So that's what I did. I was on set for maybe 3 hours. When I went to the picture, it was me fighting a giant spider. I did not do that. That was not what I did. I don't think it was created by AI. I know Tim Burton is upset about AI, as I am. It was CGI. Okay. So that they could DH me, and I'm fighting a spider. I didn't do any of that. So I don't know what happened there. And then he referenced recent comments by Tim Burton where Tim said it was all AI, and he's just wrong. That's not what AI is, but and sure.
Tim Burton said they culturally misappropriated his work, which that's not a thing.
What?
Yeah.
Which work? Yeah. In what?
His Superman Lives stuff, because that was a film that he developed and then it got canceled. So
so he's talking about the Superman Lives thing in The Flash.
Yeah.
And they're like, he's upset that they culturally misappropriated his treatment of and pre-production stuff. Like, God.
So Nick says Nick says
what culture?
Tim Burton culture. You know, he's a separate culture unto himself, right?
That is fair. Yeah, the man has carved out a subculture space for just him. That is valid.
It's like kitschy undead, I think is what the culture is called. Like
that makes sense. I've seen Wednesday. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Nicholas continues, I get where Tim's coming from. I know what he means. I would be very unhappy if people were taking my art and appropriating it. I get it. I mean, I'm with him in that regard. AI is a nightmare to me. It's inhumane. You can't get more inhumane than artificial intelligence. But I don't think it was AI. I just think they did something with it, and again, it's out of my control. I literally went to shoot a scene for maybe an hour in the suit, looking at the destruction of a universe and trying to convey the feelings of loss and sadness and terror in my eyes. That's all I did.
I mean,
no.
He's an actor. Yeah, he laid a lot in there that was probably never used.
Also,
because they changed it around and were like, we've already got Chris Reeves standing there and being sad, looking at stuff he shouldn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So,
honestly, I feel like all of these statements are him like making it clear that he didn't choose it to do it this way. And because of what Tim Burton said, like he's so hung up on what Tim Burton said. Because if you will recall, when The Flash came out, Nicolas Cage said he saw the movie and was satisfied with his Superman cameo in The Flash.
Oh, so he's just responding to his old buddy being like, hey man, this wasn't my idea. The director changed some stuff and we got to see the spider and that's cool. But AI is bad, but also it's not AI. So what are we talking about here? Come on.
Also, like, man, look, the CGI looked like shit. Let's be honest.
And like maybe if they'd thrown it into a decent AI, it might have looked even better. Who knows? There are deepfakes out there of Snyderverse stuff that look better than Cavill in like the flashbacks of The Flash. It is atrocious. But, it's a stylistic choice because we didn't have time or budget for it.
Yeah. But let's look at the other thing. Like, he just described, he was just supposed to be standing there upset and watching a universe die. I just got that with Christopher Reeve's Superman. I don't need to see Nicolas Cage's Superman do the same shit.
No, it would have just been a very long scene of like, oh, there's different actors looking sad, and it's a cute reference. And now we got an action beat that doesn't necessarily make sense if you haven't seen the documentary or aren't that into this stuff, which is not necessarily much better, but it's slightly more interesting, I guess. If you wanted to involve these actors, some of them dead, then you could have made them do anything because it's all CG, but I don't know. It's not like a lot was lost from his emotive eyes. They just, put red dots in there and made him shoot lasers. It's how it goes.
Yeah. I was okay with what they did. I just wish it had looked better.
It looked fine. Oh yeah, no. It looked fine in the sense that I wasn't there like, oh, he's emoting very differently from what he's supposed to be doing here. So in that sense, who cares? But everything could have looked much better.
Mm-hmm. All right, so it's time for us. Like, we don't have a ton of news, but we're going to start transitioning now over to home video, and yeah, I know. On November 1st, Netflix announced on social media that Man of Steel, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, not the Ultimate Edition, underline.
God damn it.
Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League, not Zack Snyder's Justice League, underline. Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, Wonder Woman 1984, and The Suicide Squad would all be added to Netflix's streaming lineup in the United States on December 1st. And now new reports are indicating that the Batman, Shazam, Black Adam, and DC's League of Super Pets will also be coming.
What the hell is WB doing? Are they just stripping Max? Because this is your IP. You have a DC label on the streaming service.
It's what David Zaslav has talked about doing.
Sure, licensing deals make money.
Licensing deals make money. As it is, Netflix is the only streaming, so it's still the biggest streaming service by far. It is the only streaming service that's making money.
I mean, hasn't Netflix been in the red for like decades?
No, only just recently.
Oh, okay. What am I thinking of? Well, Spotify probably. I thought Netflix had a similar thing going on of like borrowing way too much money and having lots of credit because they're huge, but not actually going into the black necessarily because they keep investing in new content. But I would have to do research on that.
Yeah, no. They just that's what I meant, is they just recently got into the black. They were
they're now
making
for years. Money.
They are now officially making money, but they're the only streaming service that is.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Sorry.
Like Disney Plus is huge, but they're still in the process of making really high budget things to keep the subscriber base growing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what they're doing, and I don't necessarily blame them. People aren't going. These movies aren't. They were on HBO Max for a while. They're not drawing. New subscribers. So the only thing what you have to do is you have to ship it out to Netflix, get people interested, and then after a certain amount of time,
get them over. Yeah,
bring it back to Max, and then people are like, "Oh, where the hell is it now? I thought it was on Netflix." Oh, it's on HBO Max. Gotcha.
Yeah,
got to go over there.
Yeah, it makes sense, but purely as a business thing, because as a brand thing, it is very much like, oh god, both. It's a sign WB still isn't doing well, and secondly, it's just, if I, as a DC fan, look to subscribe to a streaming service, I will want my DC stuff in one place, and I will want it where it belongs, roughly. Yeah. Like, now I would have to have 2 streaming services just to watch Zack Snyder's version, and I guess the Ultimate Edition, maybe? Like, that is, US people are being screwed. Like, the DC Universe days, I was still jealous back then. By now, it's a mess, and I'm glad I have Blu-rays. Christ.
But it's just, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing Disney Plus doing the same thing with Marvel movies. I really wouldn't.
I feel like they're more protective of their Marvel IP. I feel like Marvel Studios has more control over there, because they're even still importing the old shit. They have the Netflix shows. They are continually trying to get the Spider-Man stuff over to their side. So they are trying to consolidate more, and I feel like WB's priority right now is just, God, we need cash flow.
That's true. They're still in debt. And you know what? I would not be surprised if we start to see Disney Plus do the same thing. But at the same time, if Disney Plus can do the impossible, as Disney has done so many times before, and they can crack the code and make it work, hopefully we'll start seeing some of these other streaming services doing the same thing. But we're seeing a similar issue with Paramount Plus, because Paramount Plus is the home of Star Trek. But
I've heard of that show.
We happen to do a little podcast together watching the original series.
Right. That's why. Yeah.
Star Trek Universe, if you guys are interested. But
I thought it sounded familiar.
One of the newer shows, Star Trek Prodigy, they had already renewed it for a second season. It was in production, second season, and then Paramount Plus canceled it.
Oof, that's rough.
Took it off of the service immediately. Luckily, Netflix bought it, so we'll be able to watch it there. But the reason I'm excited about that, I'm annoyed as a fan because I'm like, no, you're the home of Star Trek. I want all Star Trek on there. But as a fan, I'm like, if it's on Netflix,
least it's getting made. Yeah.
It's that, and also if it goes to Netflix, that is a huge audience. That is a much bigger audience than Paramount Plus.
That is an advantage. Yeah.
And it is a kids, or it's a show aimed at children. So that could bring in a whole new generation of people who could really be into Star Trek. So, Netflix had a lot of success putting all the old Star Trek shows on their service, and the only reason they're not there anymore is because Paramount Plus wanted them.
Yeah, and I still have them over here, but that's my exception to being not in the US, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's also on Sky Showtime. Like, the original series is on both for some reason.
That makes sense.
I don't know, non-exclusive licensing deals, I suppose.
I guess so. So The Penguin has been delayed, the Batman spinoff show for HBO Max.
That is kind of sad. But go figure, they were shooting and then everyone had a strike. Yeah. So
WGA and SAG strikes meant that had to be pushed back to the fall instead of the spring. So that's happening. We have word from Casey Bloys though.
Familiar name now.
Yeah, and you'll see how stupid this guy is.
I had an inkling.
Oh God, let's see. He's talking about superhero fatigue. He says, I don't know that it's necessarily tentpole fatigue as much as it is a sameness of storytelling. I think the key, even within DC, is trying to tell different stories in different styles, to not try to do the same show over and over and over again. I would say Peacemaker is a very different show tonally than the Penguin. So there's not a uniformity to the storytelling, and I think that helps. Unfortunately, Marvel, as good as their shows are, there's probably been a lot of them. That's one of the advantages. Yeah, that's one of the advantages we have at Warner Brothers. Is it's not just one set of stories. There's a lot of stories you can go to. Dude, shut up.
What? That you're not even making a point. Just don't bring in Marvel into your conversation if you don't want to have to sort of defend yourself, because this is a bad defense.
Don't be like, Marvel, as good as their shows are, like, and then you're like, there's probably a lot of them. Yeah, there are a lot of them, and they're all very tonally different.
Yeah, like, I agree with the point that tonal difference is somewhat important. I'd also argue that it's not so much sameness in tone, but sameness in quality where the issue lies across the superhero genre.
Mm-hmm.
It is like sure, I would not want every Marvel movie to have the exact same tone. I've had my issues with that, but also I don't want them to be mediocre. That's my issue with the recent batch, where there were a couple good ones and a couple what are we doing?
Yeah,
it doesn't have that same forward momentum anymore. And of course, it leading up to the to Endgame, that was an all-time high you're never going to replicate. But right now you're in a phase 1 of sorts where it's not as good as phase 1 was. So they need to, do what they're doing and, slow down some of their production, because they're just churning them out too fast to have decent quality checks in place.
Yeah. But, the other thing about that, though, is, I'm even the stuff that I didn't like I'd hated WandaVision, but I wasn't, I was just bored by it. I didn't feel like it moved quick enough. And that was my issue. But watching it and saying they are really going for something artistically here that hasn't been done before necessarily.
Yeah.
I was all about that. That was great. So
exactly. It was a great start to, we're doing TV now, and we're starting off with an homage to decades of TV.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I really appreciated the show. I just thought it ended on a dud. Week to week, I was very engaged. I also think it helped that they released 2 episodes the first week, because I don't think waiting a week for that second episode was necessarily would have been as good, because they were kind of samey and shorter. But towards the end, it just kind of fell off into generic, we're having a CG fest, and it's not as compelling anymore.
But, I don't think I would be making this argument against what he's saying here, except that he brought up tonality, and then attacked Marvel and for being the same. And I'm like, WandaVision and Loki were very different. WandaVision, Loki, and Hawkeye were all very different.
She-Hulk and Loki, come on.
Yeah, none of that shit was the same.
Very much looking forward to the season finale of Loki. That show is doing stuff.
And I loved She-Hulk. CGI would look dodgy.
Absolutely.
I'll admit. Fantastic show.
If you're paying attention to the CG and She-Hulk, you're not having fun. If you didn't come to have fun, watch a different show. And I'm the first one to usually be critical of Marvel relying heavily on humor. But this is not a serious property. They are very much taking the piss. She's climbing out of the Disney Plus menu. That's just funny. It's just fun stuff.
And very much in line with the source material when you go back to the Peter David run. She's literally hopping between the panels.
Non-existent. Yeah. And that's the fun of it. But if you're not gonna appreciate that, we should not be critiquing that property for the CG isn't perfect in every spot. Come on, it's not Endgame.
We know the real reason so many people were attacking that show.
Abso-fucking-lutely. It starts with Misa and it ends in Genie.
A few people didn't realize that they were the villain of that series.
Oh no, they must not have been paying attention. I'm guessing they were gonna make a complaint of where are the positive role models for men? And at that point, I'm like, in Birds of Prey, I guess. If you don't like the attorney there, maybe go watch Birds of Prey. There's a pretty fun guy in that one.
All right, moving on to sadder news. Superman and Lois is ending with season 4 on CW.
To be expected, but it's
to be expected. Like, Gunn said everybody likes it. Maybe it'll go another season or two. I'm seeing people going,
it's another season.
Another Gunn lying to us. No, he just didn't know. He said or.
Nothing was definitive. It was just, we'll keep it going for a bit, and then we're going to start shooting Superman Legacy and the DCU at large, where I want everything to be connected, as I've announced. Like, we knew this was coming, and I hope the showrunners knew it was coming and just, wrap it up nicely.
I've been seeing a lot of, attribution to Gunn here. A lot of people saying this is Gunn's fault. Dude, this is like Nexstar almost canceled it this season because it's such an expensive show.
Right. I remember that. And it makes sense because, it's a pretty big budget for a television show that isn't, a mini series of 10 episodes. This is weekly shit for a long while, and that's just a big budget for it.
Yeah, they've cut the episode count. They've cut the regular cast down to the Kents and Lex Luthor.
They're clearly budgeting as much as they can, but audience drop-off is just a given. So it wasn't gonna go on forever. It had a good run, and it's just highly praised among fans. So I still I'm not up to date, nowhere close, but it's things end, and I'd rather them end on a we saw the shit hitting the fan, it was gonna end, we knew it was coming, than them being surprised and ending on a stupid cliffhanger that nobody really wanted.
Or, a dud like Batwoman did, or a cliffhanger like Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, the list goes on. Like, we've seen the pattern of, let's try and stoke some outrage and see if they'll give us a finale. Like, Sense8 was one of the few times it worked. It's not going to work every single time. Sometimes Netflix is just going to be like, we don't care. Or in this case, WB just goes, we're not going to produce it for that amount of money again. Like, live with it. Yeah. Not enough people care ultimately to finish the thing.
So there's this strange ideal in America, and I get it, because if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, shows went on for ages and ages and ages. Like, they milked the shit out of it for years.
Yep.
Superman and Lois. I am happy. Let's look at the sort of what they did at the show that they kind of took their name from. Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. What do we go? 4 seasons on that, and they ended on a cliffhanger.
Oof.
Look, Superman and Lois and Clark's a lot of fun, but Superman and Lois is like legitimately a great show. I don't want to see it go 9 seasons and peter out around season 5 the way The Flash did.
I was about to say, that's a waste. I don't want to be invested in a thing and see it become and then have to decide, am I still going to spend an hour a week on this?
Yeah, and
that's a waste. That's way harsher than just having it end and being content with it.
Honestly, like, all of the other recurring characters, they were in good places to become recurring instead of regular. They were in good places for that. Really, where they ended it, Lex Luthor made his debut. It's really all about him and the Kents at this point. Wrap it the shit up. Get done with it.
And you should be able to do that in a shorter season, just focusing on the one storyline.
Yeah, and I'm down. It is a fantastic show. It is a really, really solid Superman show. I just want to see it end well, and move on to the new things. We knew the CW was not going to keep making this thing.
No, clearly. It had to end at some point, like all the other CW shit also did.
Some of that CW shit I adore. Crisis on Infinite Earths, but it's over. It's time.
There was a time, like, I remember Googling for... someone had made a fan cut of the first season of The Flash into like 3 movie-length properties. Because I was like, I can never convince friends or my parents to watch an entire season, probably. Because there's just a lot of filler of the week stuff in the first season, just setting up stuff where I'm like, no, but the story with Reverse Flash, that's the shit, you know? And I By then the torrents were already just gone and the fan cut was nowhere to be found, but someone had put in the effort of editing it, and I was like, oh shit, now I would have to redo that whole effort. But
it's not worth it.
I haven't gone back and rewatched the entire thing. Screw that. Way too much work.
Yeah.
But like, just I remember those times where that was a highlight. The Flash was just so damn intriguing. They just set it up so well, and that was in a time also when I didn't necessarily know a lot about the Flash yet. That was relatively early days for my fandom.
And Arrow had some really fantastic first. Season 1 was really good. A lot of people love season 2. I didn't, but
I don't fully remember which era was which season and which villain, but I do remember enjoying the show. Yeah.
Season 2 was mostly Deathstroke.
Right.
And Mirakuru.
Yeah, I remember now.
Season 3 was Ra's al Ghul, Death of Oliver Queen, and Resurrection of Oliver Queen.
As you
do. My favorite season is season 5, Prometheus.
I remember
fantastic.
that, and I think that's where I fell off. I don't think I finished that season.
That was such a great season. The first half of season 7, when Ollie's in jail and he's just like beating the shit out of people and like cracking skulls on prison.
That sounds lovely.
Prison sinks and whatnot. Like that was.
I do kind of miss that era of let's make it grim dark so people can take it seriously. Like it had its charm, Sometimes you just need something really violent. In terms of a superhero property and. I hope to see Green Arrow in the DCU, and maybe he'll be a filthy socialist like he's supposed to be, but that might be my European roots.
It's easy to be a filthy socialist when you're rich as shit.
That is also very true. It's
billionaire Oliver Queen.
Please give your fucking money away. Yeah.
He's like spending all of his money.
At least Batman is honest about having no principles, That's But if you're going to pretend to be a socialist, goddamn act like one.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure Ollie's pretty charity driven in a lot of those stories, but
I'd say so.
Yeah. Last bit of, it's not even really news, but it's exciting to me on some strange level. Maybe just look, Kendall and Kylie Jenner dressed up as Batman Forever's Sugar and Spice for Halloween.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I wanted to, this is the last thing I'm talking about, and the reason I wanted to bring this up is it's so weird. Sugar and Spice, as far as I remember, were only in Batman Forever. They were played by Drew Barrymore and Debbie Mazar, and I've never seen them ever again. And then on Harley Quinn, the animated series is on HBO Max. There's an episode where they're at the Legion of Doom, and Sugar and Spice have like a walk-on cameo, just walk past the camera. And I was just like,
right,
holy shit, Sugar and Spice.
That's blink and you miss it stuff. I'm sure I didn't notice that on first. I'll have to go back.
But I feel like the characters, the Sugar and Spice characters, are like making this weird resurgence. And specifically
Apparently,
in my life,
this feels like an extreme niche.
Yeah, like that's like a huge deal for like these two huge influencers to dress up like these characters. And
that feels like a costume they'd have to explain in the comments.
Yeah, and weirdly, like the day that I found out they dressed up as them for Halloween, I happened upon a book. A Batman Forever official companion book or something. And they had a ton of really cool, like character designs and designs for the Batmobile and Gotham and tons of promos that I've never even seen on the internet. And a bunch of them were of Sugar and Spice. And I was like, holy shit.
You don't create those characters without having some promotional material to draw people in.
Yeah. And I'm like, how are Sugar and Spice so prevalent in my life right now? Like, this is so weird.
I couldn't tell you a damn thing about them. I haven't seen Forever in a while.
You could see Forever, and we could pause the recording. You could go and watch Batman Forever and then come back and still not be able to tell me a damn thing about them.
I figured as much. If there was a bigger plot role reason for them to be there, I might have remembered, but no.
Yeah, like what we know about them is they are both Two-Face's girlfriends. Each of them represent a different half.
Yeah, that's the whole gag.
Yeah, Spice is in black, Sugar's in white. One of them is sweet, one of them is mean. That's about it. And
I'm glad they got Drew Barrymore for that.
Yeah, like I can't remember what dishes, like that was their contribution as they came in and like announced what dishes they made for Two-Face, and one of them was like charred boar and the other one was something nice and sweet or something. I don't remember, but
sure, that
was about it for them.
Yeah, that explains a lot in terms of why I don't remember them very well.
But stylistically, conceptually, there's Harley Quinn potential there.
Yeah, no, I like just the concept of him having two girlfriends who are very different, like the torn aspect, like that's fun. There's something there.
Yeah.
It's just not worked out to any, bigger extent.
Yeah.
Unless there's some obscure comic we just don't know about. That is
which
also
is possible.
Always possible.
Always possible. There's so many during that time frame in the 2000s, and there are so many damn Batman books. I couldn't buy them all, and I wanted to.
You know what? They keep making more still to this day.
Yeah. I mean, just like the amount of
You're never going to finish all of them.
Just the amount of books that were solely about Batman. Not even the Bat family, but it was like Detective Comics Batman, Shadow of the Bat, Legends of the Dark Knight. It was just, it was an endless amount of Batman books in the 90s.
Yeah, there's one type of story that sells, and the other characters can just, get rusty some other place.
Yeah, sorry, Booster Gold.
Who needs that? Except James Gunn, apparently, but...
Oh, Booster Gold's fantastic. I love Booster Gold.
I've heard.
I'm so excited.
I haven't read a lot of him, but I'm familiar.
I'm so excited that that's even a thing that's being considered.
Yeah,
Booster Gold forever.
There was sarcasm included. Like, we need that. I am looking forward to it.
I literally have a Booster Gold figure right here. Here is a Booster Gold action figure.
That is good stuff.
I've got another one over there.
Great hair, that man.
Of course. Anyway, that is going to do it. That's it for this episode of DC On Screen. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
I hope so too. I did.
I enjoyed it. I had fun.
That's a good sign. I can live with that.
I don't even think we talked about dicks at all.
No, just tits.
Just tits and painful almonds coming out of nipples.
Yeah. Cashews, even.
Yeah.
Worse. So much worse.
Always happy to explore new horizons with you, Effie. All right, guys and gals and everything in between. Thank you for listening to DC On Screen. You can find us at dconscreen.com. Again, that Patreon was patreon.com/DCOnScreen. You can write to us, dconscreen@gmail.com. All that bullshit. And, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye. Sorry, I'll stop.
Why is this happening?
I'm not sure. It happens.
Keep some DC on your screen.
Right, that one. Yeah.
That's what I was supposed to say.
Now I remember. Yep. Nailed it.
Hey, thanks for listening to DC On Screen. Our theme song is by Jason Goss and Michael Shackelford of Galactic Engineers. The incidental music is by Michael Shackelford and Kevin MacLeod. You can rate the show on Spotify or rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Doing that really helps push our show to new listeners, so your help would be much appreciated. You can also contact the show at DC On Screen on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or email us at dconscreen@gmail.com. To become a patron and get ad-free episodes and exclusive content, go to patreon.com/DCOnScreen. Your reviews and feedback may end up on a future episode of DC On Screen. DC On Screen is a production of Maladjusted.tv in association with Stranded Panda. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever damn platform you use.